That guy last night. Wanna go see it today, Anthony? Josh, you know you do. He's silly.
Okay. All right. At the beginning, we talked about there's different ways to use CSS in a document. And the way we've been looking at it is using the script tag that goes into the head section. But this is not always the way we'd want to do it. In fact, normally this isn't how we're going to want to do it. In a lot of this, I've been using what's called inline. The way inline works is you can actually use it mixed right into your XHTML. This is good because it's really easy to do. It's bad because it's really hard to maintain. If you make a really big site, you want to make a change, you got to dig through all of your XHTML to look for the spot where you decided to put some CSS data. So generally this is avoided. There are times where you need to do it, but most of the time you want to avoid it. Even using the script tags at the top, a lot of times you want to avoid because you don't get to scale it at all. If you have something real specific to the page you're working on, you want to put it there. But if you have general data, you want to put it into a separate document altogether. What we talked about already was the style tag. Now we're going to talk about the style attribute. This is how we do inlines. Take any tag that we want to alter, and this is on a case-by-case basis. This is a single instance of this tag. So if we put, in this case, paragraph, style equals, and then we put the CSS, one line of CSS in there, font size, colon, small. This will make this particular paragraph small, but it's not going to affect any other paragraph. So if you wanted to make 5 paragraphs small, you've got to do this 5 times. So this isn't very useful most of the time. And if you want to do this on a one-time basis, you might want to make a class for it so that in case you use it again, you can just use that class again. And if you want to change that class, it changes everything instead of having to figure out where your small was. Here's another example, an H1 red just one time and putting squares into an unordered list. Okay, you can do any tag this way. You have all the power that you do with any other way of doing CSS. You just have to do it line by line. If you use a commercial editor, Dreamweaver, InDesign, this is what they do. And so the stuff you get out of it is garbage. And it takes a whole bunch of manual labor to clean up. So there are ways to set those to do other things, but it's really complicated. And this is why they're not nearly as popular. This is why professional designers are almost always working by hand for the bulk of their work, because it really helps the manageability. Okay, so if we want to use a separate document, this is the one thing we haven't looked at yet. We need to use a new tag called the link tag. And this is a general purpose tag. In this particular instance, we're going to use it for adding a CSS document. In other circumstances, we can use it for other types of documents as well that we may want to link in to our XHTML. But this is by far 99% of the times that the link tag is used. It's used for CSS. There are 3 attributes that must be used with the link tag. One is rel, one is type, and one is href. We're all used to href. We use it when we have an anchor that's going to link to another page. In this case, we're linking to another document, the CSS document, in exactly the same way. If it's in the same folder as the document we're working on, all we have to do is put the name of the document. If we're working with one that's online, for example, if you want to use one off of my website, it's sheepguardingllama.com/sheep.css. You can just put that into your href, and you're going to get to use the same CSS that I use for one of my pages. You'll get the green text, the background, all the fonts that will all come right through. So you can use this. You can go online. I think the W3 Schools has a bunch. You can just connect to theirs, and you'll get their styles immediately.
So this would be, what you're talking about is, when you open an HTML web page, you're linking also, you tell it also, go get this other page, and this is what I want to have happen in mine as far as style.
Yes.
Okay.
And what it does internally is where the line link is, it goes out, it grabs the CSS page, which is nothing but CSS and comments on CSS, brings it back, adds a style tag, drops in the CSS, and puts another closing style tag. It doesn't show that to you. That is what it's actually doing inside. So when it actually goes to put the page on your screen, it's going to act like all that was at the top of the page, only you didn't have to put it on each and every page. And if it links to one you've used before, it's not going to go find it again. It already knows what that CSS has in it, so it's going to speed it up dramatically. So this is what a link tag looks like. When we're working with CSS, our rel always is style sheet. We don't have to worry about why. It just is style sheet. And our type is text/CSS. This is going to be changing in the next year or two. You're going to see that go to, it should be MIME/CSS, but that's not supported yet. So it's a really big deal that they're switching to that. It's going to affect the way things work quite a bit, but not for developers. Yes?
So when you, let's say you design something today, 2 years from now you want it running, do you have to go through and change that from text CSS to MIME?
No, because the browsers are going to keep supporting the standards for a long time.
Okay.
But as we go into XHTML 2.0, which is already on the books, one of the requirements is text is no longer a supported format. You've got to use MIME for everything. MIME is it's something, the Internet Multimedia Format Selector. I can't remember what the initials are exactly, but one of the M's is multimedia, the I is internet, E is extension. It's probably the meta Internet Multimedia extension. And because of the link, there's nothing that goes inside the tag. We close it off with the slash at the end. Does anybody have any questions about how this works? It goes into the head, right where you would put the style tag. I'm going to show you an example. Okay, all right, open this page. Not an exciting page, that's not the point. Okay, I've got 3 pages. Actually, I'm going to go through these all real quick. Looks exactly the same, doesn't it? One more. Okay, no change. No one can tell I'm opening different pages. Now let's look at what they actually look like. Okay. This uses the style tag. This is the first one we looked at. Opens with style, ends with style, and there's your CSS in between. Okay, this is what we've been seeing the whole time, nothing new. Go to our second example. Now it's a little bit different. Here we are linking to a style sheet. Okay, it's in the exact same spot that the style tags were, but it's link, style sheet, text CSS, and in this case the name of the CSS file we're using is style_example.css. And I'll open that up for you. And style example. And there it is. You'll notice that in case you looked at it, this is exactly the same as what we had between the style tags before. And our last example, the exact same thing, except here we have the style for the bodies in the body. The style for the H1 at the top is right there, and the style for the paragraph is right there, in line using the style attribute. This took longer to do. It's more cumbersome to read. If you're looking at someone else's page, it's very difficult to figure out what's going on because the information is all mixed in. You can't look at the top and say, what's the background color? What's the text color? You have to look line by line and figure out what's in there. But when you need to do it, it's there. And it gives you some extra power. And in a second, we're going to talk about where that comes into play. Cascading precedence. Yes?
How does somebody look at the CSS that you used if all you have is a link?
If you're looking at someone else's page, if you go onto the internet and you're looking at a web page and you say, wow, I really like this web page. I wonder how they built it. You can go to View Source, and that's going to bring up the source of the page, the XHTML source of the page. When you're looking through that XHTML source, if they're linking, look at that link tag, and it's going to have the href in there. Take that href and put that into your browser, and it's going to bring the CSS up in your browser as text.
Oh, that'll work.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And so you'll be able to view the CSS, but it may require you to take 2 steps to do it. You may have to look up the link. But it has to be able to get to it somehow. If it can get to it, you can get to it. CSS is not one of those things you can protect. So if you think you came up with the coolest color scheme there's ever been, nothing you can do can use it again.
So these are like templates for styles, for how like if you saw, I like this website over here because it's got, home on now, but I like this one over here because it's Times New Roman, and I like it in black, and this one I like in red. You set them up like templates?
The CSS you do, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. A styled sheet is really a template of instructions for how to style a document.
Okay.
So it's a very good analogy. Okay, cascading precedence. When you're dealing with CSS, it's called the cascading style sheet. Why did they just call it the style sheet if it didn't do anything? Because it cascades. You're probably wondering that. I know. The thing that makes CSS really powerful, well, one of the things that makes it really cool is that it has orders of precedence so that you can override CSS. And the way it works with what we're dealing with is the most local rule wins. So if you're wondering, I've got all these different ways to do CSS. What if I want to use them all at the same time? You can. You can have a linked CSS sheet. You can have styles at the top of your sheet, and you can have inline styles all in the same document. What happens when you have overlapping descriptors? The inline always comes first. If there's an inline, it doesn't look any farther. After it doesn't find an inline, it's going to go to the style at the head, and it's going to say, what are the styles for this page? If it doesn't find the style it needs there, it's going to go to the CSS that's linked in, and it's going to say, what is the style for this site? And so the page, the CSS document itself, is really a site-level document. Sure, you could make a separate CSS for every page on your site and link each one and do it that way, and you have the option of using them or not using them. You can do that, but the thing that makes it really, really useful is having a site that all looks the same in many pages using a single CSS or just a few CSS pages. So things that you're going to have duplicated, you put there, but you might need something on a specific page. You can put that in the head, and if there's one line that for some reason is just really cumbersome to put into the head section, into the style tags, you can put it into a style attribute, and you can put it on that one line and get the style you need. So there's ways to get whatever you need. And if you really get into CSS, you'll learn there's ways to even cascade site-level sheets and do more detail that way, so we can keep looking to higher and higher up style sheets to see which one. If you do something like you have multiple attributes, say your site-level CSS document sets the paragraph to Tahoma, but your page level sets the color to blue, and your inline sets the background to red. Those don't actually overlap. It's not going to see those as competing. It's going to say this one sets the background to red, this one sets the foreground to blue, and this one makes it Tahoma, and it's going to give you Tahoma blue on red. So you can layer them like that, so that if you need to change just one element of it, you can. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, tables. When we've used tables before, they're ugly. This is the bottom line. Tables don't look cool, but they should look cool. So that's why we have CSS. Here's an example of a table that is actually styled with CSS. This is a fancy font that I'm using up here for the heading. I can't remember what it's called, but it's definitely silly. And I'm using a number. This is violet, this is olive, and I think this is silver. We've got a little table here. It's a little hard to read. I should have made these white instead of black. Animals, their favorite food, and their favorite music, and you can see what different popular animals like to eat or listen to or whatever.
How did you write this out?
This was taken from a survey of animals. We asked them what they like to eat. This was mostly animals who work in web design, so we had access to. Okay, this is actually the end of the slides for this week. What I wanted to do at this point is I wanted to actually take a bare XHTML document and let you guys kind of work through doing some CSS so you can see how we can apply it to a real page.
Villagers for lions.
Did you see what their favorite music was?
Village people.
All right. So these are really entertaining. They're on the server. You can go look at them. But as you can see, this table, the point is not to be funny. The point is the table is really attractive, and it's even more attractive when you see it on a regular screen and the olive comes through. But this is when you're looking at websites and you get these really nice laid out, easy to read tables like this. This is what they're using. Really simple CSS. For these examples, I'm not doing a lot with CSS separate pages. Most of it is built right into the examples. Here it is. At the top, I've got the style. I'm setting my paragraph, which is only that one line after the heading. You can see I'm using ITC Avant-Garde Gothic, and if it doesn't work, I'm just falling back to a sans serif. My color, my font size, my heading, Indigo. Oh, thought it was violet, sorry. Indigo, Curls MT is the name of that font for anyone who wants to use it. And it'll fall back to the generic Fantasy. And both of these, I'm sure, are not available on Linux. Linux has hundreds, Windows has hundreds, very few overlap. And then this is what I use. The TD is the tag that I'm changing the style for to make the table look interesting. I made the font black for it. I set the font to Tahoma, falling back to Arial, falling back to sans serif. And I said later we were going to see how I was actually doing the font family with the fallbacks. This is it. There's one there, and one here. I do need to mention, when you're using the font families, because these are not actual CSS fonts, these are just fonts that are on the computer, people might put spaces into the name. Because there are spaces in some of these names, you've got to put quotation marks around them so that it doesn't think you've ended your CSS statement. So just be aware that you may have to quote anything that isn't just one word. It's the background color on the table to silver and the font size to small. Now, because I wanted to have that one section of the table be a different color, there's a couple ways I could have done it, but I did it the easy way, the cheating way. And I went through, and on these three, the actual words, animal, favorite food, and favorite music, I just put in a style with background color being olive for just those three right ahead. And so with just those three, it overrode the silver as the background color and set those to olive. But none of the other things changed. The text was still black, the font was still Tahoma, the size was still small. So all that was not overlapping. But the background color is overlapping. It was explicitly silver up above, and now it's explicitly olive, and the local took the precedence. Is there any questions on that example? Just double check this is the end. It is. Okay, now we're going to work with this XHTML page. This is pure XHTML, there's no CSS.
There he is.
Who is it?
my
That's the
hamster.
baby.
If you
Your
look
hamster?
carefully, it is Mr. Humphreys.
Humphreys.
That's his name.
How old is it?
He's just about 2.
I think diet too.
No.
Died at 4.
Oh.
He's halfway there.
He's halfway. He's middle-aged. He's very sweet. And he drew blood when Katie Case tried to feed him. Only time he's ever bit in 2 years. The rules on this: do not play with celery, and then put your nose to or finger to the nose of a hamster, because hamsters are blind; they can't see you. Okay, so this is what we got. We've got an H1 tag. We have a division here around the picture, and that's why the name Mr. Humphreys is tied to the picture the way it is because they're together in a division. And then we've got, I think, 3 paragraphs down at the bottom. Right now, there's no CSS. I think there is a link going to nothing. And so we're seeing what's happening when the CSS link doesn't work. It doesn't tell you it doesn't work. It just gives you the default. One of the things that's important to explain, the way CSS works is there's actually a CSS page built into your browser, and all the defaults are set in there. You never see it. You never have to work with it. But it says Times New Roman's default paragraph text. it says black is the default color, white is the default background. All that is actually set through most browsers through an actual CSS page located somewhere. And you can go through somewhere and change those settings. But what happens is, looks for the inline, doesn't find one. Looks for the style in the head, doesn't find one. Looks for the CSS page, doesn't find it. It has a default CSS that it always comes back to. And that's what we're seeing here. Okay, so now we're going to open that up. There it is. You can see here, we have a link tag that's going to hamsterstyle.css. Real quick, I'll just run you through this. There's nothing special. Here's our division. It has a class of pick. So if we wanted to have more divisions, divisions is one of those things. It's like the span tag. You're really going to want to have a class almost every time you use it because it's not really useful without having a class assigned to it. So in this case, it's class pick. So we could set some things there. Mr. Humphreys as the title, and then here's the image, the alt, the way we're supposed to. And then here's our 2 paragraphs, and there's another paragraph down below that's identical. That's what we have to work with. So we've only got one class that we have to worry about in this. Everything else is just the generic tags. Now, if we need to make a style sheet for this, it's easy as just open. Remember not to save the text file. So we have to name this exactly what it's looking for in the link, or else we got to change the link. And this is looking for hamsterstyle.css. Okay? Now, we have a CSS page. This is it. Nothing on it. You've seen the XHTML. I'm going to let you guys kind of work through building some CSS to change the way this displays. And then next week we're going to do even more as we learn more CSS. Because this week we've kind of worked with like colors and fonts. Next week we're going to start learning how to use CSS to actually lay out a page. We can use CSS for a lot more powerful things. We can use it for positioning, we can use it for layout, we can use it for printing. CSS is what's allowing a lot of web pages now. If you go to the page, when you're looking at it on your screen, it's full of advertising and pictures and all that stuff. You hit the print button, and somehow it prints out like it came out of a word processor, and it's CSS that's doing that. So, somebody give me some ideas. Yes?
I would like the background color to be papaya whip.
All right. This is what happens when no one speaks up. Dominicans will do weird things. Okay.
And papaya, what color is that close to?
It's like a creamy kind of color.
Okay, to change the background of the entire page, we're going to work with the body as the selector, because it's the entire page. I'm going to lay this out so it's kind of readable. Background color sets the background. How do you write? Is it get a dash?
No, it's all one word.
W is got.
Does that matter
That's
if they...
probably a typo.
No, on the list it capitalized the P and the W from the list from that website.
We'll take our chances. We'll find out.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're all lowercase.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think it was just so you could read it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody give me something else.
For what?
We're doing CSS
Right. But like.
for the page we just looked at.
How about a heading, the color of
Light golden
Purple.
rod yellow.
Purple?
purple?
Night blue.
Oh yeah, it's not heavy. Yeah, what?
Okay.
That hot pink for everything on
Yeah.
underneath.
No, a back.
Purple.
What's the sienna color?
I don't know. Probably brown.
Yeah.
But burnt sienna is brown. I don't know what sienna is.
Medium aquamarine for the color of blue unders.
For the paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay. We've done 2. So what are we going to put for paragraph?
B,
P. Then we need the curly bracket.
Aqua.
Tahoma.
Medium aquamarine.
Oh, we're doing color.
Yeah.
We're doing-
Medium aqua.
So what's the property we need to change the color?
Mint green.
Color.
Color.
Color, colon, space.
How do you
What?
spell aquamarine? Aquamarine?
Me,
that
he
all it
wanted
is?
medium.
Oh,
aquamarine.
medium aquamarine. Woo! Almost got the wrong one. Is that it? Is that what it looks like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do we put after that?
Go to the next line and curly bracket, close
No.
it.
No, don't
Oh.
put a
Oh,
column.
semicolon.
Semicolon.
Yeah.
Next one, do midnight blue.
And then we close off the. Now, I heard something about the font.
Fine. Do we have to put another P, or we just
No.
continue on?
You put it inside the curly brackets.
Oh,
And it can
right.
be pretty much any order within the curly brackets. It's not a
Oh,
problem.
it doesn't matter anymore.
Extra,
Okay, so we
extra large.
do font,
Mhm.
is it a dash?
Yep.
Size.
Extra large.
Extra large
Yeah.
There
for
we
the
go.
paragraphs.
Yeah.
Is there a triple large?
There is not. You can try it. It may work. Some browsers may use it, some may not.
Try it.
But
Yeah, try it.
Triple
all
large.
right, we will try it.
Yes.
What do we put after it?
What happens if we
Sorry,
don't?
folks.
Well, if it doesn't work,
Just
it just
Uh,
doesn't show up.
It may try to determine what you're looking for, and it may fall back to extra large, but it's most likely to say it's nothing and go back to medium. Okay.
So then do you font size, and then you would do font dash family?
Correct.
do a fantasy.
I'd have to look them up. I don't know what they're called.
We're just doing
Do
generic
monospace.
fantasy.
Generic.
Monospace.
Sure.
We'll do Lucida console. Now, we had to do double quotes because it's two words. Now, what if this system doesn't have Lucida console? This one happens to, but
Then it's not gonna work.
right. So, what do we need to do to make it work?
Change it.
Something else.
No, we don't have to put in something. We don't have to make it something else.
Oh yeah, you have to, oh shoot, then you gotta go to the,
Comma.
Comma.
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, we have to have a fallback. So, is there anything we want after Lucida console, or do we just want to put monospace?
Monospace.
Good enough. Yeah.
Can you mix families? Did you say that?
I tried that and it freaked out.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think
mix
so.
families.
So how do you know Lucinda console is a monospace?
Because it's what I use for all my examples.
Oh. So
If you
you
look at
actually have to know your families in order to
Yes.
classify them, okay?
Yep, and sometimes it does a little bit weird things. I tried something and I accidentally mixed, if you're not careful, you could easily mix a serif and a fantasy. Because some fantasies get really close to fantasy serifs. And sometimes it'll do weird. What it might do is it'll just fall back to the fantasy
Okay.
and skip the original because it'll say, "Oh, you didn't know what you were doing," or that's not in this category.
Okay.
All right, something else.
Let's see what happens now.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we do another color?
Don't you have to close the style out?
I saved it.
Oh, okay.
I'm hitting Control S every time we go to
Okay.
look at something. Okay. Everybody ready?
Yes.
Everybody watching the screen?
Yes.
Let me just break. Oh. All right.
You laugh.
Does that mean we forgot something?
It means there's a mistake somewhere. Hamster style.css. Hamster style.css. All right. Let's figure out what's wrong.
Maybe the XXY just messes the
Yeah.
whole thing up.
Well, let's start with that. That's unlikely to make everything else fail.
Nice.
Still nothing.
So right now you have that page,
Are
and
they in the
then
same
you're
folder?
telling it to link to this, to the style page, the CSS
Yep.
that we're
This is what we're
creating.
working with
Okay. Where does
And-
it say to link?
right here.
Oh, okay.
And I know this worked because I tested it with another style sheet, and all I did was change the style sheet's name. Get rid of it. So there's something weird going on here. Well, there's the one that worked. You can see it just below it. Hamster style, spelled exactly the same.
Let Angel take a shot at it.
Yeah, right.
Your joke is just correct.
There we go. It's because of the XHTML. I had a mismatched character type.
So is this ours? or-
This is yours.
Oh,
This is the style sheet that you guys just designed.
That's pretty crazy.
Why I love hamsters.
Look like
On my screen, you can see that this is purple. Does it? Yeah, it's
that's
the
not
projector
papaya.
doesn't.
Oh, okay.
I see like flames in the background.
The background is papaya whip. It's a little bit hard to see, but if you look, this is white over here, and this is papaya whip through here. So now everyone's gonna run out and use papaya whip because it's really cool.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
You can
right.
see
Midnight
this
blue.
huge text that you're using down there.
Do they have like really complicated backgrounds where you can have like flames in the back and stuff?
You can use photographs as backgrounds,
Sweet.
but you need to think about how big the picture is going to be when it loads because it'll slow way down. You can do things where you tile backgrounds, but a lot of those things were really popular in the mid-90s, and people will just navigate away from your page as soon as they see it. Because it's a lot of those things are just tricks that people did when they started out. And blinking text, you can still do it, and people just won't stay at your site. They've gotten used to those things and they just move right past it. Yep, so you can see what color was our text? Oh, aquamarine. Medium aquamarine. This is medium aquamarine on papaya whip. I think it works pretty well. Real quickly, I will show you if we rename hamster style to hamster style class. Obviously, it's going to break our style sheet. So our style is just going to go away. Because it's going to look for it. There's nothing there. So if we go through and then rename hamster style that I did earlier,
What did it do to the extra large?
we took it out before. Well, for extra large, you saw it.
Right. But was it like?
It was pretty large.
But was that
And
the
then-
extra large or the extra?
That was just
the
2X.
That's the
extra.
extra.
Here's one I did. The colors are not as exciting. But you can see I changed the fonts, changed the sizes, everything fits on one page. And all I did was change the name of the CSS page so that it matched. The link picked it up. So this is really easy if you wanted to have a bunch of different styles for one page. You could make one page, make 2 CSS files, and be like, oh, check this out, look at this one. Close it like that.
Why are there hamsters? I hate all rodents. How could you love that thing? His eyes are black.
Be careful what you say.
I'd kill it.
Oh.
The thing like comes out of the teeth, like comes out of
It pops out of the screen.
Is it the monster?
It's the monster.
Behind the
guys.
You're looking at it. The classes will be like 20 minutes.
Okay. Now we've seen what this does. Does anybody want to try anything else? Do anything else with the tags, the properties?
Make a
we've been
different
finding?
background color because that's not what papaya whip is supposed to look like.
Midnight
Could you insert something?
Somebody give me a
Make
color.
it midnight blue.
Midnight
Yes.
blue.
Could you insert?
Andrew's gonna keep asking until
Could
you
you
do it.
insert like another word, like another sentence into the paragraph? Like hamsters really like salmon or something.
Oh, is it you? Oh, I'm sorry, Nate.
Through CSS?
Yeah.
No. CSS doesn't have the capability of carrying any structure or content. It can only carry design. And so that's what makes the separation so significant. All right, so now our background color is going to be midnight blue. We're going to need to change some of the other colors so we can see things. What should somebody give me something.
Whoa.
Can you like put like a border on its picture too?
We haven't gotten to that yet.
Cornflower
Midnight
blue.
How about
Cornflower blue.
Flower
I don't think you'll be able to read that over the midnight blue.
Corn
light
salmon.
pink?
That's probably yellow.
Light pink.
Light
Light salmon.
black.
Floral white.
No, because if
Brought
it was
you
light
delicious
salmon, I
bag.
have
Link pink. Link pink.
All right.
How do you
Okay.
get a link out of light?
Listen. All right. What about for our paragraph? Aquamarine will be. Well, aquamarine might come up.
What's Navajo white?
Well, let's find out.
Huh?
I bet Navajo white will not show up much on
Color of your teeth? It's more like
The
yellow.
dark cat guys.
No, I was talking to my brother.
All right, let's go with a different font.
It's J on Navajo.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to
Navajo.
It should have been Navajo.
Navajo.
Yeah.
Right. All right, someone give me a font. Anybody know any font?
Extra small.
Tahoma.
Gary.
Olive
All right,
drab.
so hold on.
Reset.
Glasses.
We'll fall back to Arial. We'll fall back to Sans Serif.
Fall back to.
This is really important for anyone who's never learned whatever language this is. Must be French. Sans is without. So anytime you see something, sans just means without.
Like without serif?
Right, without serif.
So why don't you
That's
just
all
put
it means.
without serif?
It's amazing they didn't think of that.
They're so dumb.
No,
Used
it's
to the
fine.
government.
That would be
I think the French just call it without.
yeah.
I don't prefer to just die.
Extra small?
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
People aren't jumping in, getting weird
Okay.
things.
Let's see.
Like papaya white.
Now here's a
With
dumb
Navajo.
question.
Mhm.
Why aren't you just putting that, oh, that looks good.
Oh, that looks really good.
That's my background color.
Not that.
Why aren't
Why
I
aren't you
White
just
pink.
putting the
You can't read the
brackets
notes,
on
his
either
name.
end? Why do you put brackets, then
Yeah,
the
you
next
can't
line
read
what you
the
wanna do, and then close on the next line of bracket?
just easier to read, easier to add another line.
Okay.
If I knew I was going to add just one line, I would do that. But if I'm maybe throwing things in, it's all whatever you feel readable.
And you can do that because CSS does not read the white space.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can divide. I've seen examples where they put the property and the value on different lines, so you can even separate those by lines. I don't know why you would do that. That gets really complicated, unless you're going to have a whole huge bunch of values, which you could for something. Like if you want to put in 1,000 fonts, I really don't want it to fall back to sans serif. I want to put in every one that's possible. You can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a way to change it so that the title of the picture isn't black? Like, how do you?
Well,
What's his name?
very good.
Where was that part of it?
Humphreys.
Mr. Humphreys.
Freeze.
Okay. How do we change the hamster title?
Going back to HTML.
Now would it be?
No, it's, we still do it in
image.
CSS.
You're not gonna
Title.
change the lettering?
Well, that's, how do we do it?
You can't do it in CSS.
We can, no, not how do we change the words?
Oh.
How do we make it so it's not black on top of
You have to go
midnight
back
blue?
up to where it is on the
Yes.
outline thingy, where all the other tags are.
Division.
It is in a division, but it's not a generic division. We could
Can you
change
show
all
me the
divisions.
code?
What?
Show me the code.
Show me the code.
Show me the moon. Code. Right there.
Yes. We have
Class
to
pick.
change the pick class.
Oh yeah, I remember now.
All right. So how do we change the pick class? What do we put in here?
.pic.
Dot pick. Okay. And what do we want to do with it?
Make it light pink.
Hot pink.
Make it what?
Make it light pink.
Make it.
We've already used like
I'll write
Hot
to
pink.
Hot pink.
Violet,
Alright.
violet, red.
corn. We're gonna go with cornflower. How do you spell it?
CORNFL.
I don't know how you spell cornflower. Is it all one word? Cornflower blue?
Yeah.
I already said it's one word.
Yeah.
Except for
Yeah, you got powder.
Okay. Why don't we do something else? Why don't we do a background color?
Called white smoke.
Pink.
Yes.
Tomato.
It's unanimous.
well, it's like cotton.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Cyan.
that looks pretty
That,
good.
that looks really bad.
Again.
Okay.
Looks like
Um,
a penguin.
Where does
Like-
name go?
One of the things that's interesting here, though, is this is the division.
Yeah.
Everything from where it starts to where it ends, all the way right to left.
Yeah, that doesn't look very good.
But you
Really?
can span just the.
Why don't you do
In the,
that?
how do you? Can you do that in a style sheet?
With the
Yes.
pick.
Well, no.
As there.
We have to have a span in there. Right now, that text is completely part of the division with nothing else.
Okay.
But if we went back, and right here we could put in a span. Class equals 2E class.
History.
History. I don't know
Jim.
why you picked that, but
This is a good example of why you would want to name a class so that it would make sense in what you're doing with it.
oh yeah.
Like, kind of like file names and graph titles.
Whatever one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, now we're coming back up here. We're going to get rid of the hot pink here
Aw.
because it's a bit much.
That's cheap.
Okay.
Ghost light.
So what do we put here to change that span?
Dot history.
Dot history. Now what should we put? We saw hot pink.
Light
so-
sea green.
What?
Light
back to what
sea
you-
green.
Light sea green with cornflower blue on top. Maybe we should change the cornflower blue.
Yeah, we definitely gonna do
Yeah,
that.
let's change it to white smoke
This
or-
thing's gonna fly
or ghost light.
Now that looks better.
Not really. Oh yeah,
Mr.
that's
Humphrey's
definitely
part.
still milky.
Yeah. Using spans for backgrounds is not always the best thing to do.
You could stay on this thing for hours until
Fire
you find
break.
something you like.
Right. And that's why there are really cool websites that do color matching so that you can find what actually looks good. If I remember, there's one that I really like to use. I'll get the name of it for you. You just select a color to start from, and it'll give you a whole array of colors that work really well with it, and they give you some really cool results.
Can't you just go on the internet and like make your own website off of somebody else?
You mean go get their page and use that as a template?
Yeah.
You can. Yeah.
He has no idea.
You can grab this one off the server and just change the text. What was that?
She's big now.
I told him I was picking.
Okay, is there any other questions for this week? Is there anything else you want to see before we wrap up? Yes.
What's our homework?
Your homework is, I don't have any reading that I came up with for this week. Hopefully I will come up with something and Mrs. Miller can bring it in on Monday. The homework is to make a whole bunch of pages using CSS and use CSS as a separate page and as a style at the top. You don't have to do it.
What if you don't have a computer?
Buy one.
Um,
Or use the ones at school.
I'm gonna be here in the morning, so hopefully you'll be able to just get on
Every
the
morning?
computers. Yeah.
Yes, Mrs. Miller is the new teacher. She starts Monday. For those who don't know.
Now me.
Uh-oh,
I
she's gonna
sure
sue you.
You can have computer
Anything
plans
else?
every day.
Okay, I guess that's it for the week. Make some pages, use CSS, and we'll see you next week.
I don't want love romance. No Dewey young miss who keeps resisting. All the time she keeps insisting. No wide-eyed, wholesome, innocent female. No sir, why she is the fisherman. I'm the fish, you see. I flinch, I shy. When the rest with delicate goes by, I smile, I grin. When the girl with a touch of sin walks in, and I hope and I pray for Hester to win just one more A. The sadder but wiser girls, the